Hey everyone, Techni here with a monitor review, and today we have the BenQ EX. Oh, hold on. What? Come on. Who the heck put this plant in the shot? Y'all know we don't use plants here on the Techni channel. Let me see what we have over here. Here it is. All right, so we have the BenQ EX2780Q gaming monitor, I guess. You know what, actually, I don't want to call this a gaming monitor. It is amazing for gaming, which we're going to talk a lot about, but I really think this monitor is that complete package. If you do video editing, picture editing, a lot of gaming, or video watching and stuff like that, again, I think this is the monitor for all. If again, you're doing all of those tasks right there rather than just having a gaming monitor or a video or picture editing monitor. I think this thing packs all of the features for all of those different scenarios. And this monitor is coming in at 27 inches. It's an IPS panel, 1440p, 144Hz, FreeSync on it, HDRi, which we'll talk a lot about later, 95% color gamut, 10-bit, and it has some amazing built-in speakers, which I will let you listen to later on. But what I want to show you first is what comes in your box. So inside your box, they're gonna give you an HDMI, a USB-C, your stand right here, which is very heavy-duty metal with some nice rubber grips on the bottom right down here. They can give you your arm, which this back plate detaches, and then you have a nice wire router right down there, which we will hook up later. Then of course all your paperwork down here, and yes, you're seeing it right, they give us a remote, which we'll play with later as well, and then a little stand for your remote, which goes right in here to the stand to sit on. And then of course, we'll have our monitor. As far as connections on the back of the monitor, you have a headphone port, you have two HDMIs, one display port, and then your USB-C port over here. I really wish we had one more display port. And then on the other side, we have our power port right here. And it's really cool because your brick is built into the monitor, no external brick. And then on the bottom left-hand side of the monitor, as you can see there, we do have a volume wheel right on the bottom monitor. Absolutely awesome. Now on the back right hand side of the monitor, you have your power button, little joystick to navigate the menus, and then two shortcut buttons. And yes, all of this stuff right here can be controlled right by the remote. Now one thing I'd like to point out that I know a lot of people probably just don't even care about, but me reviewing these products, these little things like this make a huge difference, right? So as you can see in the arm and then our mount right here, they have these little notches cut out. And by the way, your screw is in there, so you don't gotta fondle around with that, right? But anyways, you can pretty much take this stand and they mount, bam, get it into those grooves, slide it right in there, and you're good to go, and then tighten it up. But even before I tighten it, as you can see how nice, tight, and secure it is in right there, just makes the installation process that much easier. And that also goes with attaching your bracket to your monitor. As you can see, you have this plastic cover on it with your screws right there, and it just goes right in there, bam, slides into place, lines up your screws, and then just tighten it down. And as you can see with this cover right back here, this monitor is also VESA mountable. All right, so let's dive into the aesthetics of the monitor here. Again, it is 27 inches, and the screen is that matte coating screen. It's not glossy by any means. As you can see, it is frameless, but you do have little black bezels in there whenever you turn it on. They're not big at all, probably about as big as a pen. But you do have this big bezel right on the bottom right here, this bronze piece that goes all the way across. This is about 1.25 inches, and it also has your sensor right down there going along with the HDRi, which we'll talk about later. That's how it senses all that right there. And then also the remote. Speaking of the remote, as you can see, I have it placed right down here, but you don't need to. You actually don't ever have to use a remote if you don't want. That is just a little rubber, little gasket type deal that fits perfectly right into the monitor. So again, you use it without it, or bam, it sets right in there. I mean, I highly recommend you using the remote. It's stinking awesome. Now, when you look at the monitor from its side right here, it is a little bit thicker, and I think that's because, again, it's housing the speakers in there, and again, our power brick is within there. You don't have any external power brick or anything that you got to route on your floor. So yes, it is a little bit thicker, about around 1.5 inches from the center to the front in our thickest parts. Of course, it does come a little bit thinner here, but yes, it is a little bit on the thicker side. Now, while we're also looking at the monitor at this angle here, I want to cover the one and only thing that I do not like about this monitor real quick, and that is the adjustment with it. As you can see, we can tilt it back, which is plenty fine, actually quite a bit. Then you can tilt it a little bit forward, but that is it. No twisting side to side. I mean, sure, you can just move it on your desk, you know what I mean? But no twisting and no height adjustment. That's one thing I've really come accustomed to, is having my monitors in the height adjustment. And again, in this kind of price range, I mean, everything this guy's packing, I really would have liked it to have some height adjustment and again, a little bit more movement within the stand. So that's a stinker, mild, but again, a stinker. Now let's take a look at the back side of the monitor here. As you can see, very nice, sleek, matte finish. We do have that VESA mount cover, as I showed you earlier, that snaps off very easy. And again, it's really cool that you have that cover right there just to make it nice and flush if you decide not to use it. That also goes with the wire router right here. As you see, I have the power cable routed right through here. You can just push up on that. As you hear, it clips in, and you can take it off, and you have this nice wire router here. Now, when you do get like 2 to 3 cables in there, it does get a little bit tight, so make sure you kind of route them all at once and kind of maneuver them in there. But again, really cool. It just hides them away. It's absolutely perfect. Now, yes, you are seeing it right. There is a speaker grill right here on the back, because this monitor is packing 2 2-watt speakers and 1 5-watt speaker. Now, sure, that doesn't sound like a whole lot, right? But again, packed into a little tiny monitor like this, it's packing a punch. You see what I'm talking about? Now, no, it's not gonna shake the house or anything like that, but again, as far as watching movies, videos, even gaming or music, it sounds very, very good. Again, for a monitor, hands down, easily the best monitor speakers I have ever heard. What I would compare this to perfectly, again, the speakers right in here, is about like a little Bluetooth speaker. If you ever used any of those before, like the JBL or Anchor ones or something like that, that's exactly what this sounds like. All right, so now let's go and talk about the juicy stuff, actually using the monitor, right? And I game a lot. I don't just review products, pop them out the box and review them, but that is not the only area where I tested this monitor. I actually edited probably about my last 5 videos on this monitor. But where I would like to start off with is my gaming experience with this monitor here. And the really cool thing about this monitor, it pretty much has the exact same specs as my main everyday monitor, besides ultra wide. And I absolutely love my main monitor. So it's really cool to have something with, again, the same stats to kind of compare it up to. Again, I'm not coming from this 1080p 60Hz monitor. I'm going pretty much apples to apples here. So I'll be able to give you a real honest comparison and kind of judgment here. So anyways, number one where I want to start off with is it being IPS, 5 millisecond, 1440p, and 144 Hz. Kind of a whole bunch kind of jumbled into one topic right here. But number one, 1440p. And if you have never gamed on 1440p, I highly recommend it. It will be one of the best upgrades in your gaming setup you can currently do. Again, you got to make sure your GPU is enough to push it right there. But again, 1440p coming from 1080p is a drastic difference, massive difference. And that also goes with the 144 Hz right there. If you're just playing on a 60 Hz and you jump straight up to 144 Hz, wow, night and day. You combine the two right there, 1440p, 144 Hz, wow, there's no going back. Trust me. Like, I go back and play a 60 Hz monitor now, and I honestly, it sounds dramatic, right? But I honestly get a little nauseous. Again, it just get a little bit dizzy. And yes, it is an IPS panel, and it's coming in at 5 milliseconds gray to gray right there. But let me tell you what, it is very hard to tell the difference from 1 millisecond to 5 milliseconds. Like, when you get up into like the 8s and 10s, then you'll be able to tell the difference. But again, 1 to 5, very hard to tell the difference. Now, the biggest thing that sets this monitor apart from other monitors out there is the HDR on it. By the way, my main everyday monitor also has HDR, and I have multiple 55-inch TVs in my house with HDR, and I honestly love HDR. But talking about my main monitor, again, 400 HDR, which is the lowest, just like this one here. And you'll hear a lot of people say, oh, well, hey, it's the lowest possible, approval for HDR being the 400 HDR. And let me tell you what, with a monitor being right in front of your face, as most of us are right on our computers right there, even at it being at 400, it is incredibly bright and it just hurts my eyes. But that's where this BenQ monitor really comes into play right over here with the HDRi, the intelligent HDR, which this little sensor right down here will sense the lighting in your room, whether it be bright or dark, and it'll adjust the HDR to those settings of your room. Now, you do have multiple settings as far as your HDR, come different profiles in there, but again, it's still adjusted to your light. Now, you can disable that right there, but you got to go into display HDR and it'll keep it right on that main setting. And again, the display HDR is going to be the brightest, and it's going to stay that bright. So let's talk a little bit more about this HDRi, and I'm going to show you a couple clips right here so you'll be able to see the different settings as I'm cycling through it. But again, if you're like me, you're kind of wondering, like, well, is this just some sort of gimmick where it's just going to alter all your colors and everything? And honestly, it's not. It's actually really nice, and it makes the HDR actually usable on a monitor. Because again, like I stated before, even with 400 HDR, that monitor being right in front of your face, it is incredibly bright and almost unbearable for me, at least, But when you get it onto that HDRi, depending on which setting you're putting it on right there, it adjusts it. If your room's really dark, it kind of brings brings it down a little bit, so again, it's not just blind in there, but you still get those benefits and the effects of HDR. And talking about the benefits and the effects of HDR and everything, it's one of those things that's just amazing and you really need to try. It's kind of, again, I put it back to that 1080p to 1440p. It's that big of a difference, you know, you really notice it. Brings out your shadows and some of the dark areas, you know, whether that be in like just a simple layer of bricks right there, one brick going to the next. It brings out that little line of shadow, gives everything a little bit more depth. Definitely in clouds or like racing games, that's where I notice it the biggest. Like Forza, for example. Forza Horizon is a big one. All the scene right there, the cars, all the shadows and curves, like the tail lights, and then the clouds up there. I mean, it is absolutely jaw-dropping amazing. Now, unfortunately, no, it is not beneficial in every single situation. Number one, let's talk my situation. I play a lot of Call of Duty, right? So kind of a competitive game, right? You get in there. So whenever you fire up the HDR, which again, you can probably see, it gets really dark when you get into certain HDR settings right there, which is very hard because again, it's bringing out the shadows and the detail and the texture for you and everything, but someone could be hiding in a corner and you'll never see them because again, that shadow is just so dark now, and again, the textures kind of cover them up right there. So no, I wouldn't recommend it for like a competitive game, but when you get into like a story game, campaign game, or racing game, again, it is almost like a must need. It is amazing and it just brings the world to life. And again, going back to the HDRi, that's where this monitor comes into play and lets you take advantage of that stuff and make it bearable while you're sitting smack dab in front of your monitor right on your desk. Again, with my main everyday monitor, just basic 400 HDR, I cannot use it at all because it hurts my eyes so bad, it's so bright. This one, I could game on it all day long with the HDR active. But again, as far as editing videos, I use this as a second monitor on my MacBook Pro, and wow, I mean, just phenomenal. Yes, I did have to dial the colors in quite a bit right there, which you can, and again, all the settings are controlled right by that joystick on the back. You got your brightness and all your contrast and different profiles and everything set on there. And like I stated earlier, all that can be controlled right by the remote, which makes it incredibly easy. You have blue light settings, your backlight settings. It's just, there's so many settings in this monitor to really dial it in to your liking. But again, back to that one downfall with it, the stand, not being able to adjust. I had to go off and get a mount, an actual little monitor mount to put on my desk to make it even bearable to lift it up. I actually went ahead and ordered a VESA mount to keep it up a little bit right there, so again, my laptop screen won't come right up over it. So again, I think that is a big bummer how the stand does not adjust more than it does. Alright, so all in all, the BenQ EX2780Q right here, and where do I place it? I think it's an absolutely fantastic monitor. If it was ultra wide, it would take the place of my everyday monitor. But I'm pretty happy with it being this side because again, it's taken the place as my editing monitor, and it's absolutely fantastic there as far as the speakers, the HDR when I decide to watch videos over there. But again, as far as editing videos, it's gorgeous. And just putting all that together right there where I said, oh hey, it would take the place of my everyday monitor if it was ultra wide. But hey, I'm gonna use it for video editing. That's where this monitor sits. It's that perfect monitor for that versatile and really multitasking person if you're doing video editing or picture editing or gaming and stuff like that. This thing packs it all into here, and it's absolutely a complete fantastic package. So hey, that's all I really have on the BenQ EX2780Q. If you have any questions, please do ask me down in the comments. I'm still using it to this day, and I'd love to share any info if you have any questions on it. So definitely please do ask or shout me a holler on Twitter at @TheTechniOne, and I'll definitely be more than glad to answer anything for you. But hey, I hope I was able to help you out in answering your questions, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit that thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe for some future tech videos. Hey, I hope to catch you in the next one. Bye now.